Don't trouble the water. I won't get along. Why don't you let it be?
A poem for Barack Obama's presidential inauguration. Each day we go about our business, walking past each other, catching each other's eyes or not, about to speak or speaking. All about us is noise. All about us is noise and bramble, thorn and din, each one of our ancestors on our tongues. Someone is stitching up a hem, darning a hole in a uniform, patching a tire, repairing the things in need of repair. Someone is trying to make music somewhere with a pair of wooden spoons on an oil drum, with cello, boombox, harmonica, voice. A woman and her son wait for the bus. A farmer considers the changing sky. A teacher says, "Take out your pencils. Begin." We encounter each other in words spiny or smooth, whispered or declaimed, words to consider, reconsider. We cross dirt roads that mark the will of someone and then others, who said, "I need to see what's on the other side. I know there's something better down the road. We need to find a place where we are safe. We walk into that which we cannot yet see. Say it plain, that many have died for this day. Sing the names of the dead who brought us here, who laid the train tracks, raised the bridges, picked the cotton and the lettuce, built brick by brick the glittering edifices they would then keep clean and work inside of. Praise song for struggle. Praise song for the day. Praise song for every hand-lettered sign. The figuring it out at kitchen tables. Some live by love thy neighbor as thyself. Others by first do not harm or take no more than you need. What if the mightiest word is love? Love beyond marital, filial, national, love that casts a widening pool of light, love with no need to preempt grievance. In today's sharp sparkle, this winter air, anything can be made, any sentence begun, on the brink, on the brim, on the cusp. Praise song for walking forward in that light.
Thank you, Divina, for kicking us off with that wonderful reading of the poem. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Civic Saturday. My name is Sam, and I want to start by acknowledging the Kumeyaay people whose ancestral lands we're gathering on today. The Kumeyaay people continue to maintain their political sovereignty and cultural traditions as vital members of the San Diego community. Let's take a moment to thank them for their contributions and stewardship throughout the generations. Civic Saturday was started by Citizen University 4 years ago in Seattle on the weekend right after the tumultuous 2016 election, which has now sprung up in dozens of cities and towns across the country. And Civic Saturday is grounded in the belief that a strong democracy relies on strong citizens. And by coming together across professional, social, political, and cultural tribes, we can rediscover our common purpose and challenge each other on how we are living up to the American creed. This is our third gathering here in San Diego, and in August, we explored the theme of America as an idea. Last month, we gathered to read America's paradoxical and evolving story. And today, for our last gathering of the year, and after one of the most contentious and difficult elections in US history, we're ending on the theme of America as an argument. And in these recent years, we've seen further entrenched partisan polarization, deepened cultural divisions. And let's face it, our political disagreements have made Thanksgiving and family reunions more awkward and even at times unbearable. And in this election, even with record turnout in the middle of a pandemic, a big segment of our electorate still didn't vote. And there's still widespread cynicism and distrust of our winner-take-all political process. So we know going forward, coexistence won't be possible by papering over our differences and further digging into our echo chambers. So our lineup of voices today will encourage us to see argument as a perpetual dialogue without always producing a winner or a loser, to use argument as an intentional space for doubt and for transformation, and to help us find ways to practice argument as a healthy civic habit. So we're in for a treat today. The educator, entrepreneur, and poet Viet will offer his gift of spoken word. And Dr. Zachary Green, my mentor and teacher, will deliver a civic sermon. Then we'll move into a time of small group discussion with one another. What Divina read earlier at the outset was written for an inauguration for a president. So through the test of time, passages like these form what it's called civic scripture from our experience together in civic life that's canalized into our collective memory. And whether they're legal opinions, speeches, literature, or poetry, they shape the American experience and identity through what you might call a rabbinical process of listening, interpreting, and yes, arguing. So Sarah will now read a passage from the American civic scripture, and followed by Viet's poems and Zachary's message.
Good morning, everybody. I will be reading an excerpt from John McCain's concession speech at the end of the 2008 presidential election he made on November 5th, 2008. My friends, we have come to the end of a long journey. The American people have spoken, and they have spoken clearly. A little while ago, I had the honor of calling Senator Barack Obama to congratulate him on being elected the next president of the country that we both love. In a contest as long and difficult as this campaign has been, his success demands my respect for his ability and perseverance, but that he managed to do so by inspiring the hopes of so many millions of Americans who had once wrongly believed that they had little at stake or little influence in the election of an American president is something I deeply admire and commend him for achieving. I've always believed that America offers opportunities to all who have the industry and will to seize it. Senator Obama believes that too. But we both recognize that though we have come a long way from the old injustices that once stained our nation's reputation and denied some Americans the full blessings of American citizenship, the memory of them still had the power to wound. A century ago, President Theodore Roosevelt's invitation of Booker T. Washington to dine at the White House was taken as an outrage in many quarters. America today is a world away from the cruel and prideful bigotry of that time. There is no better evidence of this than the election of an African American to the presidency of the United States. Let there be no reason now for any American to fail to cherish their citizenship in this, the greatest nation on earth. Senator Obama has achieved a great thing for himself and for his country. I applaud him for it and offer my sincere sympathy that his beloved grandmother did not live to see this day, though our faith assures us she is at rest in the presence of her Creator and so very proud of the good man she helped raise. Senator Obama and I have had and argued our differences, and he has prevailed. No doubt many of those differences remain. These are difficult times for our country, and I pledge to him tonight to do all in my power to help him lead us through the many challenges we face. I urge all Americans who supported me to join me in not just congratulating him, but offering our next president our goodwill and earnest effort to find ways to come together, to find the necessary compromises, to bridge our differences and help restore our prosperity, defend our security in a dangerous world, and leave our children and grandchildren a stronger, better country than we inherited. Whatever our differences, we are fellow Americans. And please believe me when I say no association has ever meant more to me than that.
Just the other day, I woke up and I chose to live. I was tired of dying, so I climbed off my deathbed, jumped into enemy territory, dove into the belly of the beast, and I drank its poison. So when I came out, I was stronger with the antidote to save even those before me, and now memories of their legacies are restored as my voice slays dragons that have us dragging our feet through the streets of Babylon. I became the change I saw in this dream I had, that one day we would all be free at last. See, at first, I thought I was living the dream, but I was actually stuck in a nightmare where my own blood drowned out the sound of my mind's harmony, and I knew I had to wake up by any means necessary. When I awoke, I murdered my thoughts, resurrected them to seek redemption. I no longer wanted to be driven by daily reminders of being a pawn. I took a crash course on becoming a kamikaze warrior. I became a courier carrying weapons to take down the structures of corruption. I am a pilot driven by my origins, so I piloted my destination right into the origin in order to take out the axis, and I'm alive now more than ever. I refuse to die, so don't kill me. I'm just a messenger, a white pigeon. You can hear me crying when my voice is delivered through bottles. Drink my message. It contains solutions to many battles. Pour out libations for someone who has passed or is dead but doesn't know it. I'm alive because I chose it, and I choose to be active in this passive matrix, and I seek neo souls who also select the no. So forget the list. Ignorant people are dying. I'm trying to lift up those who are lying asleep, awake them from those who are lying deceitful. I'm exhausted by false promises of being equal, so I'm running full speed to confront the culprit. I'm rushing the pulpit, spreading messages of human existence like a plague that doesn't discriminate, so incriminate me, judge me and imprison me, accuse me of running outside of my race, brand me a disgrace, albeit, but excuse me if I break out and spread culture, because the world is my petri dish. I invest growth in the same monstrous institution that raised me to consume the poison that was killing me softly, but now I die hard with a vengeance, do my time with a sentence, stanza by stanza, so the beast won't stand a chance against thousands of soldiers just like me, taught in their own home schools and publicly spreading the contagious message of life. See, I'm done being held captive by a capitalistic prison, so I made the decision to do a lifetime of community service and free the minds of the dying. So rest in peace, rest in peace, rest in peace, but awake in rage.
America as an argument. You ever been in an argument? I imagine seeing your faces. Some of you know what I'm talking about. I don't like to get into arguments. Indeed, I'm not conflict averse. That's not the issue. But I just don't like arguments. It's part of a practice that I have now, that if I'm in a relationship with you and then we are in argument, then there is a failure to meet. But I have been in arguments. I mean, you know, and I'm talking about the heated ones, the ones where the blood is boiling and there's the cursing and the seeing the red and the heart pounding and the shouting, and the fist clenching and the adrenaline pumping and the stepping into you. I trust I'm not alone in this. I trust that you know that we as humans are passionate people. We are an argument, we as people. And America is an argument. Now, as every vote is being counted, we discovered and we continue to notice that we are a divided nation. 75 million, 71 million, rural versus urban, older versus younger, Rust Belt versus Sun Belt, conservative versus progressive, the white vote, the black vote, and the differentiated divides in the Asian, elderly, and Latino votes. In this instance, I'm speaking of an argument that we have as a nation, but it's equivalent of being in a fight because of the anger, the screaming, the blood boiling, the righteousness on each side, the insistence that my point is the only one that's correct. And for that, it is the only one that we can support. Our efforts to convince someone we are right, taken to the point that our need to win the point becomes the only point. Differences of opinion, they tend to yield only when the opposition yields, but the opposition is no longer the opposition becomes the enemy. In these contemporary moments, our opponents are seen with this inherent trust, with misattribution, and with malice. Now, let's make an argument on a simpler term. And my son told me not to do this, but I still am going to do it. I have a son who loves to argue. And that's developmentally correct. He's a teen, and he's now learning about argument in his college class, and that makes it even worse. And so we're in this COVID bubble, and we have a COVID bubble with the people that live across the street, and we have another young man that lives in the apartment in our house. And so they love to get together, and they're those kinds of teens that are on sports. I mean, they know every statistic there is on every team, every player, every schedule. And then what happens there is that they have this fount of knowledge that is exceptional on one hand, but predictably and excruciatingly, they get into these painful arguments. They begin to question who's the greatest basketball player of all time, or football player, or the top 5. And then they begin quietly presenting their carefully curated facts of statistics. And then they get louder, and then they counter with that statistic and that statistic. And then they start yelling, and then they stop listening. And then the other one calls one an idiot or something like that. And then they start throwing that low blow, attacking the other's favorite player, favorite team. And then it gets worse. Then they begin to throw the cruel words and slam the doors and throw elbows and basketballs and punch to punctuate the point. Then afterwards, there's little remorse, just recrimination to mask the shame for having lost it again. Now, I use these teenagers as an example because there are some that say that we as Americans are an adolescent nation. We are humans that are passionate people. We are an argument. And America, in that respect, may be that kind of argument right now. Now, once my son loses the energy around these exchanges, then he comes after me and he tries to get into it with me. And then soon as he says this line, am I right? It is my signal that he's looking for a fight and not for light. He's looking for the confrontation, not the conversation. And I calmly and repeatedly try to say to him, if you're looking for my opinion, that's fine. But if you're looking for a fight, I'm not interested in that with you. I love you too much to be in that fight with you. And his dissatisfaction is palpable because the energy that comes from the argument is what he's seeking. And I wonder if America has been doing the same thing. Now let's answer this question though, like what is an argument? You know, an argument physiologically, we know literally means that if you're in an argument, the capacity to hear diminishes. And an argument also then, as we're doing it right now, is a way of activating the ego because of our need to be right. It also initiates aggression that then brings up the shadow parts of ourselves, and the darkest demons of our nature become present. An argument is an activation of anger, of rage, of disinhibition. And then when it's coupled with addiction or addiction itself to the rage, then we can harm ourselves and we can harm others. Now, what we have in this American moment is the social distance of the pandemic, but we also have the social distance of social media, where we have immunity from scrutiny and immunity and impunity in the absence of our proximity. There's this primal and tribal impulse that comes to us, that we have this Zoom moment where right now, in this moment, I am talking to you through a window, through your window. in this delay of milliseconds, in this digitized transmission of our image. But in reality, it's just a pixelated persona. We are not really present to each other. But there's another way of understanding an argument. An argument is also from an etymological perspective, its word origin. The French and the Latin origins tell us that it's about really originally reasoning. It was originally about opinion. It was originally about grounding. It was originally about support, to prove or point, to make clear, to make known, to prove. But somewhere along the lines, the part of argument also, in terms of its origin, in terms of accusation and charge, became the way that we understand argument. But we can also understand argument in terms of what you do before the Supreme Court. And now that could be said to be about a logic in a way, and then we can look to these kinds of opinions, such as Brown versus Board of Education, we can celebrate, but we can also look at arguments that have been brought forward in terms of Dred Scott, where it was constitutionally okay to say that Black people, free or enslaved, were excluded from the rights of the Constitution. Or the 30 years of the series of Supreme Court decisions that were about the denial and the exclusion of Chinese citizenry. And then now we're in a moment where Roe versus Wade will be reviewed, no doubt, very soon, because we are a passionate people. We are an argument. America is an argument where polarity, echo chambers, bubbles, consensual reality are the order of the day. There's nothing learned. There's a confirmation bias and a social reinforcement that keeps us where we are. And then we increasingly and intractably go to our set of facts. And as was famously said in a recent vice presidential debate, you have the right to your opinion, but you do not have the right to choose your facts. So in my neighborhood, there's signs in the yards of science is real, Black Lives Matter, love is love, no person is illegal, women's rights are equal rights, water is life, and kindness matters. And then there's also in my same neighborhood, flags of don't tread on me and give me liberty or give me death. Liberty did not always include all of us. We know that there are the indigenous, the enslaved, and women, that the notion of our liberty included 3/5 of a person, not a whole, and not until 100 years ago did women even have the right to vote. And then 100 years later, we have potentially a woman who will be within one heartbeat of the leadership of this land. But yet we still have dismissive disparagement and denigration that leads to disincentives to address our divide. We seem still investment in this fight. In that respect, America still is an argument. It calls on us, though, to really remember part of our creed to be a more perfect union, an ideal to continuously grow as a nation, to have an investment in America as an argument, a reasoned consideration that influences thought and behavior. America is an argument when we think about it as being good trouble that leads to marches, that leads to legislation, that leads to changes in leadership, that leads to transformation of lived experience. Our argument that America is where there are questions, where a woman's choice of what she does with her body will extend to another heartbeat that she embodies. A person who loves a person of the same gender has equal protection under the law, whether it's called marriage or not. These are questions that we are now grappling with once more. A person can vote without suppression in places where the votes are some are questioned. They're viewed as fraudulent, as illegitimate. Yet in each of these arguments, we once more try to affirm who we are. we begin to say that character matters, that honesty matters, that international collaboration matters, that the end of pandering of racism matters, and maybe the rights of immigrants, the dignity of the undocumented, and maybe even Black lives matter. America is an argument where disagreement and dissent can yield agreement and assent to better ideals and ideas, where the issues of the day can find a different way. Let's argue for an America where police reform that is informed by the realities of police brutality, yet honors those who risk their lives and earnestly take on the duty to protect all of us from wanton criminality. Let's balance those things together. Let's look at stronger borders where there's a rule of law without separating families or denying legitimate seeking of asylum. Let's argue for an America where there's no longer silence of the science of the climate without wrecking our economy, deployment of new realms of employment for the world to come, alternatives to fracking so that we don't deny that the ice melting and all of that is cracking. Let's argue for an America, racial equity and reparations while assuring there's empathy for the desperation of the hardworking who continue to advance, and they also have opportunity. Let's argue for an America that stands for ideals of liberty and stand up to tyranny. And let's argue for an America that we truly are a land that stands indivisible with liberty and justice for all.
I sit in the midst of many people, oblivious to the life around me. I'm surrounded, you see, but I'm bound by my own insecurities. So I seek security in my own comfort zone, but I've been known to feel alone when I'm not. I got this scared to be alone complex. Not that afraid of the dark, boogeyman's gonna come complex, but more like that thousands around me, how come nobody's found me complex. Some say I'm afraid. Others say I'm obsessed. I say, call it what you wanna. I just want a cure for this. See, sometimes I get upset even with happiness. And sometimes I get stressed even when times of rest. And I even get depressed even when I'm at my best. So when I'm resting from investing in the rest of the world, I wonder, what's the rest of the world investing in? And then it feels like there's nothing interesting in me because it seems like no one's investing in me. So I flee from me in hopes and dreams and finding me in someone else so that maybe someone else can fill me in completely. Because secretly, I don't even know why at times I feel empty. I got plenty of aspirations, a huge imagination, many tasks waiting, and to top it off, I got a fascination with nations other than my own. So why feel alone? I just don't know. So once again, I'm confronted with the fact that maybe I just don't know how to be happy. And if you ask me, I'd say I'm happy with what I have, just not with what I haven't. I'm saddened by the lack of action in my life, and I take action and find myself acting a lie. And this is where I hide. I hide in large crowds, loud places, many faces, and only some familiar to me. And I feel peculiar to be in these kinds of settings because I find myself forgetting that I'm actually kind of a shy guy, which is then when I realize why at times I feel alone. Because even though I'm grown, I still haven't outgrown my own insecurity, which is why I seek security in my own comfort zone, despite feeling alone when I'm not.
Thank you. Thank you, Viet. And thank you, Dr. Green. Thank you for those powerful words. Dr. Green, thank you for that heartfelt message and that thought-provoking message. And thank you, Sarah, for that wonderful reading as well. And let's give all of them a round of applause. Now it's time to hear from each other in reflecting on what was just shared. And we have a prompt here for you. And we're gonna go into breakout sessions. Sarah's gonna send out into randomized small groups. And the prompt for us is describe a cherished and reasoned position you hold about America's character and what experiences and conversations led you to that position. Welcome back, everybody. Hope you enjoyed spending time with one another. Definitely had a lot to reflect on from both the poem and Zachary's message. And we got actually another original poem from Viet. So whenever you're ready, take it away.
I believe that we are meant to be together. But something tells me that the dream of us just might be difficult to manifest into destiny. It's hard to believe in dreams when reality soaks in and it's raining on parades that march in the face of captive audiences. They applaud the idea of us, but the thought of us slips their minds as we pass between lines of doubt and cynicism, and skepticism is contagious. Because I too am plagued with sketchy images of caricatured fallacies. So am I falling for a false hope of a United State of a marriage type relationship? Perhaps my visions of happy matrimony are distorted from bearing witness to adulterated behavior, but regardless of the random rumors that surround us, every day I still can't help but feel that your massive appeal was meant for me. And maybe my jealous tendencies are playing make believe and trick me into thinking I'm being pawned as another fallen soldier with a wounded heart and scars that mark a lifetime of verbal battles. So I'm trying to figure out our past disputes and grow with our differences. And I know it's difficult. When you tell me that you love me, I want to believe you, even though I got tainted thoughts of you only playing mainstream and catering foreign policies and never bothered to see what you mean to me. So I want to believe that you love me the way love was meant to be, unconditional, without restrictions or limitations and boundless of barriers that distract us from being us. So I want to reinvest in the possibility of us. I went about it all wrong at first when I bought a 2-bedroom, 2.5 bath, in an affluent neighborhood just so I could fit in with your desires. I give a portion of my wages to your well-being each paycheck, but each day gets more demanding. And honestly, I can't stand seeing you in financial hardship while knowing your history of impulsive expenses spent on credit. So I wish I could rescue you from recession with bailout funds, but I bought a Toyota instead. Because at $2 to $4.50 a gallon and your economy falling, somehow I knew I'd be driving the extra mile just so I can keep up with you. So I want to stop flattering with false feelings of infatuation and believe in love again. And instead of inaccurate accusations of getting fucked again, you still want to provide stimulus packages to your heart so that our souls can stand on rebuilt infrastructure left over from corrupt foundation. But I need you to support me whenever I get weak. Instead, in sickness and in health, even when I'm not covered with Kaiser from full-time benefits, how about we resuscitate this relationship and be in each other's life support? How about we strengthen more in our First Amendment rather than in our right to remain silent? You see, I'm trying to mend our wrongs and write them into the Declaration of Us so that we could proudly pledge allegiance under a God who knows the truth of how we came to be. So let me protect your honor. All I ask is that you don't treat me like a foreigner or a criminal or illegal or question my identity to you. You see, I need you to accept me for my entire identity as I have accepted yours because I believe in us, despite my insecurities, in spite of other opinions, and regardless of our far from flawless past. So let's disregard what's past and perfect our future. You see, there's hope for us. If you believe in the dream, I mean, I love you, America. So love me or love me not.
Let's give it up again for Viet. Thanks so much. Love you, brother. So we started the hour today with the poem for a presidential inauguration, and I'd like to end by inviting you to say this pledge with me. In a few weeks, on January 20th, a new president will be sworn in. But as Supreme Court Justice Felix Frankfurter once said, in a democracy, the highest office is the office of the citizen. So I would like to ask everyone here to say the following sentence with me to inaugurate ourselves becoming stronger citizens for the next 4 years. And by citizen, I don't mean people who have a particular legal standing or eligibility, but anyone who claims this country. And as Viet said, anyone who loves this country's ideals, its flaws, everything. Anyone who calls this place home, anyone who shows up for each other. Sarah, share that on the chat box. You can take a look real quick and kind of see what you're about to say. Basically, it's a modified version of what the president takes. So if you're comfortable, I ask you to turn on your camera and unmute yourself, and we'll do this activity together. And this is best experience in gallery view if you're on Zoom settings. So raise your right hand and please repeat after me. I do joyfully affirm
I
I do joyfully affirm
that I will faithfully execute
I will
faithfully execute
the office of Citizen of the United States
the
the
office
office of citizen of the United States
and will, to the best of my ability,
and
will, to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend
Preserve,
protect,
and defend
each other and our land.
each other.
in our land.
Thank you so
The
much,
land.
everyone, for being here today. We have a quick, short survey, and Sarah will share that link in the chat. And if you fill out the survey, one of you will receive this free book, You Are More Powerful Than You Think by Eric Liu. And feel free to stick around just for a bit to chat. And thanks again, Dr. Green, Viet, Divina, Sarah. Thanks everyone. Stay safe, keep growing out of our adolescent stage and get into good trouble. So see you next time.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.